symbol, that's roaring kitty, this persona. This is someone who is the stick it to the man, fight for the underdog, use the system against itself, kind of a cult figure. From that, a lot of people feel disenfranchised, disempowered. They're unhappy with their economic status. And he represents this opportunity.
It's Wednesday, May 15th, 2024, and this is Markets Daily, a show where we get into the minds of some of the smartest and most experienced investors, traders, analysts, economists, professors, anyone with a hot or smart take. I'm Jenn Sanasie. Before we get into our chat today, let's take a look at what's going on in the markets. Consumer price data came out this morning, and inflation is cooling slightly, with U.S. April consumer prices increasing 0.3% month on month. Now, this is a bit of a relief for consumers, but how will it impact rate cuts? We're going to have that discussion with our guest in just a few moments. Bitcoin is reacting to this surprising data. It's almost at $64,000 this morning. Now, analysts are taking a little bit of a closer look at Bitcoin. Although the price is having a little bit of a pump this morning, it's been pretty stagnant over the last few weeks, and Bitcoin's fees have really been tapering off since the halving. Meanwhile, the Son Finance token dropped 60% after a $20 million exploit on Optimism. And Canaccord says that Galaxy Digital has strong momentum across all business lines. After the firm published first quarter results, Canaccord Genuity said that the company's opportunity set and competitive positioning remains compelling. Galaxy's net income rose 40% from the previous quarter to $422 million. Now, let's bring our guest in and make sense of what's going on in the broader markets this morning. Chief Analytics Officer at Pioneer Development Group, Christopher Alexander, joins me now. Chris, how's it going?
Good, thank you.
All right, we do this thing at the beginning of the show. It's called the call of the day. You get to say absolutely anything you want. It can be as crazy or as tame as you want. What is your call of the day?
I think my call of the day would be as unexciting as possible. The CPI data was pretty much what people expected. There's a mixed bag in that, and it's spectacular and unhow spectacular it really is.
Well, I would say that's not a very exciting call, but I spoke to you before the show, and there are some nuances here that we have to unpack. So from a crypto perspective, what are you watching? What does this new data that came out this morning tell you about what's to happen in the coming months?
Well, I think for crypto, it gets a lot more interesting, both on the market side and on the industry side, specifically, or starting anyways, as kind of always with Bitcoin. So does not look like, particularly look at the other factors that go into the CPI, other reports, the PCE and the PPI. They're showing inflation stubborn. Don't think you're going to see rate cuts soon. Bitcoin is a big liquidity sponge, and for people that love volatility and can put money into it, they do it. And that money's still going to be tight for a little longer than expected. I think we had 6 to 7 at the beginning of the year. Forecasted cuts cuts in the rates the Fed might make, and now maybe we're down to 1 or 2. So that's unfortunate. But one sort of interesting underlying factor, and of course, energy and food are very volatile and affect the CPI and are even admitted in some analysis. But natural gas prices, piped gas, were down considerably, and natural gas prices are down considerably. And I know a number of the publicly traded Bitcoin mining companies are now considering off-grid energy and looking at methane mitigation and natural gas. And so this is a huge opportunity if they're going to try to move into that market to get cheaper power to mine Bitcoin.
Unpack that a little bit more for me. What might we see happen?
Sure. So essentially, the miners are looking for the cheapest possible price per kilowatt hour. And if you look at industrial electricity rates across the country versus converting natural gas into electricity on site, it's significantly cheaper. Say you're at 5, 6, 7 cents a kilowatt hour, you're down at 3, 4, 5 cents a kilowatt hour if you're using natural gas. So, there's that race for efficiency. And when you're able to lower that cost for producing a single Bitcoin, it gives you a little bit more breathing room, and there's increased interest there.
I said in my introduction, analysts are looking really closely at Bitcoin miners now. After the last halving, Bitcoin fees are super low. The price of Bitcoin has kind of been stagnant over the past few weeks. Could this be something that helps them alleviate some of that pressure and maybe prolong them selling that Bitcoin off and having a negative impact on the markets?
Yes and no. The issue is, these are large scale industrial projects. The big pubcos, they think in megawatts and dozens of megawatts. So, you can't just turn a tap, spin a generator, and suddenly you have cheap power. These are more long-term strategic moves that take six months to a year. But the mining companies now have leverage to negotiate, to hedge for gas prices in a way that they've probably never had in their existence, considering where the prices are. So long term, it's great. Short term, I think it's just going to hurt them.
Now, we are in an interesting year. It's an election year. Elections are coming up in the United States in November. How might some of the data that comes out in these reports come up ahead of elections as it pertains to what's going on in crypto?
Sure. Well, it's going to start with, regardless of how partisan people are and where they want to vote, with both sides kind of picking their strategies. You see the White House saying, look, the overall CPI is down. Things aren't as bad as you think, I think is their message, which is never ideal. And on the other side of the House, you have the Republicans saying, look, all the core things that you buy every day are more expensive. We have an economic issue here. Well, economic issues drive voters, and now you add crypto into it. Most people view crypto as an economic issue. They're not as interested in the kind of libertarian aspects of it. They view how it impacts their wallet. And you just had the Trump campaign last week say they were going to start taking crypto donations. So it's starting to shape up where pro-crypto is becoming a little more of a Republican issue, and anti-crypto is moving over a little bit more to the Democrats. It's still kind of a mix and bipartisan, which is good for the crypto industry. But if economic issues keep going to the forefront and are in the news cycle, then crypto is going to kind of follow and get pulled into that. And so I think that's a really good thing for the industry.
There's a very polarizing debate that's been going on X when it comes to crypto being included in election issues. There are some people who think there are a lot bigger issues in this country that we need to worry about other than crypto. And then there are people who think that crypto is one of the core issues because we have a lot of talent, a lot of money who are leaving the United States for other territories where there's more clear regulation. What do you think? Do you think that crypto could be a hot election topic, or do you think that it's something that's kind of niche and we only talk about it on programs like this where we're focused on it?
Well, I think it's moving from niche to something that's more mainstream. I think now we've moved from 16, 17% from Coinbase's numbers of people who own crypto to 20%. Right? That's 1 in 5 Americans now own some crypto. How many of those are likely voters? I don't know if anyone's quite pulled that data together, but that starts to become a group that can sway an election, particularly in a state, say, like Wisconsin, where there's a lot of crypto awareness that has the highest awareness rates in the country. So the economy is important. And whilst people may argue there are greater issues in the world today, people vote with what's happening around them and happening in their house. And right now, there's a lot of pain when it comes to prices. So that's going to be a major election issue. Then, therefore, crypto is going to follow. Is crypto going to become the centerpiece of this election? Absolutely not. Is it the centerpiece of economic arguments? No, not really. But when you start talking about inflationary risk and hedging against inflation, you start thinking about Bitcoin and discussions of Bitcoin and how well it works in like Argentina, for example, as an inflationary hedge. So you're going to see that increase. You also have some political action committees. The crypto industry, the mining industry has realized that they need to start kind of fighting back against the narrative that's being pushed against them in Washington. And so they're going to be entering races. Again, they're not going to talk about candidates. They're going to talk about crypto. So all in all, elections are never about one thing, and you can't solve any one problem in the world. You have a platform with a series of issues. And I think it's great that crypto gets included. It really shows maturity for the industry.
Now, I have to ask you about this. Helene, who is the other host on this show, she spoke to our guest about this yesterday. But Roaring Kitty is back and GameStop is rallying and people don't really know what to make of this. And I'm curious from your perspective what you think this signals.
Well, I think you can think of Roaring Kitty in two components, right? There's a man who did an amazing job in figuring out something that Wall Street had overlooked, and then you have sort of this symbol that's Roaring Kitty, this persona. And I think when you think about the persona Roaring Kitty, it's fascinating. This is someone who is this lightning rod and this stick it to the man, fight for the underdog, kind of use the system against itself, if you will, kind of a cult figure. And so from that, I think a lot of people feel disenfranchised, disempowered. They're unhappy with their economic status, and he represents this opportunity. On the other side, why now? What does he see? I mean, the guy got it right once, and he had a brilliant thesis. Has he seen something? He explains it to everyone. He's very clear about it. So I'm very curious what we'll see happen in the next few months and what he has to say. But I think it's also worth noting that there's some correlation between Dogecoin and everybody going diamond hands on Reddit, if you will. And so I'm curious to see if the Roaring Kitty meme coin itself, right, like shot up when he posted. So I'm sort of curious to see if some of the people that are on Robinhood, invested in GameStop and AMC, start looking at crypto or continue to look at crypto again, and we see more retail investors return.
It's interesting you bring up Dogecoin. It's actually on its way to hit a golden cross, and the last time it did that was in 2021, and after that, it surged 8,000%. Do you think we could see something like that again sometime soon?
I mean, not investment advice, and past performance is not an indicator of future results. But boy, it sure looks the same, doesn't it? And it sort of makes sense. So does this army of Roaring Kitty followers and the people that looked at what he did last time and said, "Man, I missed it," right? Does he become maybe more than just sort of the leader of the disenfranchised retail investor crowd? Is he more of a market mover or a commentator that people take seriously and follow? It's going to be a really interesting couple of months to see what that is, and I'm fascinated to see what he sees here and now in GameStop and in AMC.
All right, we'll have to continue watching that story. Chris, we are at the end of the show. Thank you so much for joining us on Markets Daily. And I am a little disappointed that your own Roaring Kitty didn't make an appearance while we were talking about that. I thought we would have a great moment, but maybe next time.
Afternoons. If you call me in the afternoon, they're threatening suicide to eat. So we're set.